Welcome everyone. I'm so glad you're here. This course was designed with you in mind. Busy, real-life moms who are juggling family, work, and the dream of building a homestead. Let me explain to you how this course works. It's broken into 5 sections so you can go at your own pace. You can watch it whenever it's convenient for you, however many times you need to. There's a workbook included, and I will be referencing it during the session, so I do recommend printing it if you can beforehand. And I also included a cute little motivational audio, just something to boost your confidence and remind yourself that you do indeed got this. I guess I should introduce myself. Hi there, my name is Becky. I work full-time, I'm a mom of 3, and I have a full-fledged homestead. I grow and raise as much food as I can for my family. I also compost, dabble in energy efficiency, and take on DIY projects to make our homestead more sustainable. I have cows, pigs, goats, and please don't ask me how many birds I have now because I honestly have no idea. But I didn't get here overnight. In fact, when I first started this journey, I started from almost nothing. I've always been into cooking and baking, so I had that going for me, but I didn't have any homesteading knowledge passed down to me from my parents or my grandparents. I didn't know how to garden. I didn't know how to preserve anything. Canning was voodoo, and my idea of composting was always a failed experiment. But I had a dream, a few people that I could confide in to ask questions, and a whole lot of determination. But honestly, most days I felt utterly alone. My family thought I was crazy, and let's face it, sometimes they still do, but mostly these days they cheer me on. Not because I've arrived at some magical destination or achieved some flashy milestone, but because I never gave up. This lifestyle has changed my family. We eat healthier, we rely less on the store, and now even the people who doubted me want in on the action. So, how did I get here? Well, I read a lot. I watched a ton of videos, and I treated it like school. I even kept a binder to keep all of my homesteading stuff organized, and one step at a time, it added up to a whole new way of living, one that I could never change or give up. Welcome to section 1. In this lesson, we're going to focus on something that seems simple, but it's really actually one of the most important parts of your homesteading journey, having a clear vision. Before you start worrying about the perfect plan or whether you're doing it right, I want you to know this. Clarity will always matter more than perfection. A clear vision is what keeps you grounded and motivated even when life feels busy or overwhelming. And here's why. When you know your why you want to homestead, and what success looks like for you, it gives you direction. Without clarity, it's so easy to get scattered. You try to do too much at once, you burn yourself out, and then you feel like you failed. But with a clear vision, you'll know what's worth saying yes to, and just as importantly, what you can let go of, at least for now. And remember, your version of homesteading doesn't have to look like mine or anyone else's. For some people, it might be a big garden and a flock of chickens in the backyard. For others, it might be baking bread, canning once a month, or even just growing a pot of herbs in the windowsill. And none of those are more or less valuable than the others. They're just different. The point is, your vision should fit your life right now. Not the life you hope to have in 10 years from now, not the vision you saw on Pinterest, not the picture-perfect homestead on social media. Your vision should be something that you can actually live into today. And here's the best part. Your vision will grow with you. Your garden might get bigger later. Your animals might come when you're ready. The projects will happen over time. But if you don't get a clear vision on your why you're doing this and what it looks like for you right now, it's too easy to take on too much and get lost in all the comparison. I'd like you to open up your workbook and turn to page 2. We're going to work on this page together, and on this page I have a series of questions, and they're there to help you narrow down your why and to start gaining some direction. Why do you want a homestead? How do you want to feel each day on your homestead? What 3 things matter most to you in this lifestyle? And finally, number 4, if you could accomplish one thing this month, what would it be? Now, you might be like, Becky, I don't know where to start. That's why I'm here. That's completely fine. Let's dig into this just a little bit more. So, question 1, Why do you want to homestead? Do you want to be more self-sufficient? Are you tired of the prices at the grocery store, or maybe the food quality? Perhaps you want to start living more intentionally. All of these are great answers. Now for number 2, and you may feel like this is kind of an odd question, but the way your homestead makes you feel is also very important. So I want you to close your eyes. Imagine your homestead in a month from now, a year from now. What's happening? What do you hear? You hear chickens clucking in your backyard? The pinging of jars after a successful preservation? Maybe it's just the sound of your sprinkler hitting the garden. How would you feel? Peaceful? Confident, content, proud? Number 3 is really about digging into your values, because it's not about the size of your garden or how many animals you have or want. Maybe it's providing healthy food, living more sustainably, or living a slower pace of life. So when you get ready to tackle a new project, you can come back to this and ask yourself, does this line up with what matters most to me? And it will help you stay on track. And if you could accomplish just one thing this month, what would it be? Let's say the answer to your first question was that you're tired of the food quality and you're leaning towards meat production and eggs. Chickens are dual purpose. So this one thing this month that you want to accomplish could be simply research. What breed should you get? Are you going to build or buy a coop? Where are you going to put the coop? You see my train of thought here? So go ahead and pause the video now so you can finish filling this out. Now turn your page to page 3. Each day on your homestead can feel busy and full, but if you don't take the time to stop and notice what you're actually doing, it's easy to miss out on how much progress you're actually making. And that's why I created this daily reflection page. This isn't about perfection, it's about giving yourself a few quiet minutes to check in. Here, you're going to write down one thing you tried today, and it doesn't have to be anything crazy. The point is that you simply tried. Then jot down how it made you feel, a small win you want to celebrate, and one thing you learned about yourself in the process. I recommend doing this reflection page every day for at least a week. You might even want to print extra copies and keep them somewhere easy to grab, like your fridge, in your planner, or binder. When you take time to reflect daily, you start to notice patterns, where you're growing, what's lighting you up, and even what habits you want to build. It's such a simple practice, but it's powerful for building clarity, gratitude, and momentum. Now, on page 4, it's all about setting your intentions for the week. Think of it like giving yourself a compass. Instead of just like jumping into chores and projects and hoping you get everything done, pause to ask yourself, how do I want to feel this week? And what matters most right now? So at the top, you'll choose a feeling you want to carry into the week. Maybe that's peace, productivity, being present, or bold. Then you'll pick a simple intention word or phrase to guide you, something simply like show up or one thing at a time. Think of this like your mantra for the week. Next, you're going to list 3 small specific actions that you can realistically do this week to support that intention. Keep them bite-sized, things that are doable in the middle of real life. Maybe that's decluttering 1 drawer, spending 10 minutes in the garden daily, or prepping 1 homemade meal. Then I want you to notice the last question. If I could only do 1 thing this week for my homestead, it would be... That question helps you cut through all the noise and focus on what's actually important, because sometimes life doesn't let you do everything, but if you can focus on that one thing and do it, you'll still feel like you're moving forward. Feel free to copy this page too and use it at the start of every week. It helps give you clarity, focus, and a plan that matches your real life. And when you look back at these pages later, you'll see just how much progress you've made, and not just in projects, but in the way you're shaping your homestead lifestyle. When I first started, my dream was, well, everything. I wanted to raise the animals, preserve the food, grow a huge garden, but the reality, I only had time for one thing. But did I start with one thing? No, I got chickens and cows. I started a giant garden. The people who had lived on our property before had such a beautiful and prolific garden, and I held myself to their standards. So when I planted way too much without knowing what I was doing, you bet it flopped. The weeds started coming in, and I couldn't tell the difference between them and my plant babies, so I gave up for that season, and I focused on my chickens instead. But that was enough to help me build momentum. I spent time with them, learned about them, I started to get more, then I got roosters, and the next thing you know, I'm incubating my own eggs, and the rest is history. I can't remember the last time I bought chicken or eggs from a grocery store, and that's the power of starting small, focusing on one thing at a time. It slowed me down enough to educate myself, help me build confidence and I needed, and every step led me toward the bigger picture. Your vision will be your compass on this journey. It will help direct you when you feel pulled in too many directions, and it will remind you that you don't need to do everything at once like I tried to do. It's okay if we mess up. That's how we learn. Reflection on your progress will build confidence, and remember, progress is always more important than perfection. I used to hold myself to someone else's standards, people who had years of experience on me. Of course, my garden wasn't going to look like theirs. At the time, I was so upset with myself, I felt like a failure, and looking back, I wish I could have reminded myself that it was okay to be in the beginner stage, that every expert was once a beginner too. And that's what I want to leave you with here today. You are exactly where you need to be. Every step forward matters. Your vision is your guide, and your journey is uniquely yours. Trust it, honor it, and let it give you the confidence to keep going. In this section, we are going to tackle one of the biggest challenges new homesteaders face. And no, it's not garden pests or unpredictable weather, it's mindset. So many homesteaders hold themselves back because of comparison and perfectionism. We think we have to do it all right away and perfectly, or else it doesn't count. But remember what I said, homesteading is about progress, not perfection. Homesteading can feel like one giant to-do list, but here's the thing. Little wins are what keep you going, and when you stop to celebrate even the tiniest step forward, it builds momentum. It's like stacking bricks. Each one doesn't seem like much, but together they build something strong, and when you look back, you realize just how far you've already come. Celebrating your wins isn't just about feeling good in the moment. It keeps your energy up when things get tough, it builds your confidence, and it reminds you that progress is happening even when you don't feel it. Small wins are proof that you're moving forward, and they create motivation to keep you going. Your wins don't have to be huge. Maybe you planted your first seed, collected your first egg, fixed a fence, or learned how to water more efficiently. It could even be something as simple as asking someone for help or finishing a section of this workbook. If it moved you one step closer to your homesteading goals, it's a win and it counts. Now open your workbook and turn to page 5. I want you to write down some of your own homesteading wins here, and don't overthink it. Big or small, they all matter. Once you've written them down, pause for a moment and celebrate them. You have already accomplished more than you give yourself credit for, and these wins are the foundation you'll keep building on. Moving on, we're going to turn the page and go to page 6, is called Project Brainstorms, because small steps bring big shifts. This one is all about starting where you are right now. You don't need acres of land, a barn full of animals, or a huge budget to start homesteading. What you do need is to get creative with what you already have. So here's how this page works. Something you can grow indoors? Maybe that's a pot of herbs on your windowsill, microgreens in a tray, or even a jar of sprouts on your counter. It doesn't have to be complicated, just one thing so you can show yourself that you can grow food. Something you can make from scratch. This could be homemade bread, broth, soap, candles, whatever feels doable for you. The point is practicing creating something instead of buying it. Something you can reuse or repurpose. Think about what you already have in your house. Could you save glass jars, reuse feed bags, or turn old t-shirts into rags? Small swaps like this build sustainable habits. about something you can stop buying. Maybe it's paper towels, certain cleaners, or store-bought snacks that you can make yourself instead. Every little thing you cut back on makes your homestead more self-reliant. How about one habit you want to try this week? Pick something simple like composting your coffee grounds or hanging laundry to dry or meal prepping. Start small and let it grow. This page matters because it turns big dreams into little action steps. When you see your answers written down, you'll realize you're already on your homesteading journey. It's about momentum, not perfectionism. Yes, I'll admit, page 7 is a little cheesy, but I promise it's important. Signing this pledge is about holding yourself accountable. It's you saying, I'm choosing progress over perfection, and I'm not waiting until everything is perfect to begin. Homesteading isn't about flawless, Pinterest-worthy projects. It's about learning, adjusting, and growing as you go. The pledge is a reminder that mistakes are part of the journey, and that imperfect action is always better than no action at all. So right now, I want you to sign this page. This is your commitment to yourself to start where you are, use what you have, and honor every small step you take. Celebrate your wins, all of them, and remember that imperfect progress will always be the most powerful tool in your journey. The number one thing that holds new homesteaders back is comparison. It's so easy to scroll on social media and see someone with acres of land, a massive barn, rows of perfectly canned goods, and think, wow, I'm already behind. But here's the truth. Every homesteading journey is going to look different. Some people start with 10 acres and a dairy cow, while others start with a sunny windowsill full of herbs. Maybe your backyard is small and you have just a few chickens and a little garden. Maybe it's learning how to make bread from scratch in your kitchen. All of it matters and all of it counts. That's the beauty of this lifestyle. There's no rule book, no checklist, no one telling you what project you have to do first. You get to carve out your own path and build it step by step in a way that works for you, your space, and your family. And the best part is that no one is holding you back. You get to start with whatever you already have, right where you are, and grow from there. But here's the trap. We forget that what we see online is not the full picture. The reels, those pens, the pretty photos, those are highlight reels. Most people only show you the best moments of their homestead. The spotless kitchen, the perfectly labeled jars all lined up, the lush garden in full bloom. What you don't see are the messy parts. The chickens they lost to the heat, the muddy floors from springtime, the weeds are constantly fighting, or the arguments about who forgot to take the trash out. Those moments are just as real, but they rarely make it onto your feed. That's why comparison can feel so defeating. If you're comparing your everyday life to someone else's highlight reel, of course it will feel like you're behind. But here's the shift. Instead of letting that comparison drag you down, let's flip it into inspiration. So turn to page 8 in your workbook and let's fill this paper out. Who or what are you comparing yourself to? And what is it about them that you admire? Now, what does it show you about your own goals? So let's say you appreciate their weed-free garden. Perhaps a new goal for you could be educating yourself on weed barriers, raised beds, or mulching. And finally, what can you do this week with what you have? Remember that your homestead doesn't have to look like anyone else's, and it shouldn't. You're building something that's yours and yours alone. You have just about made it through section 2, and I want to leave you with some encouragement as we wrap this up before we move on to section 3. First, remember to celebrate every win, no matter how small it might feel in the moment. Did you bake your first loaf of bread? Awesome. It's a win. Did you fix a handle on your trimmers? Great job, you DIY queen. That's a win. Did you get through your week and still make time to feed and check on your animals? Heck yes. That's winning. These little moments stack up, and before long, you'll look back and realize how much you've accomplished. Wins create momentum, and momentum is what keeps moving you forward, even when you're unsure or tired. Next, start where you are. Don't wait for property, a fancy barn, or the perfect setup. Homesteading begins with the space, tools, and knowledge you already have. Maybe that means a container garden on your patio. Maybe it's keeping a few backyard chickens. Maybe it's simply learning how to bake bread from scratch or starting a compost pile. Every big homesteader you've seen started with a small step. You don't have to do everything today. You just have to begin. And that leads into the most biggest mindset shift of all: progress over perfection. I know it's tempting to think you have to get it right the first time. Maybe you look at your garden and feel disappointed that it's not picture perfect, or you mess up a recipe, your fence breaks, on your first batch of chicks, they didn't go as planned. I want you to hear me loud and clear. Imperfect progress is still progress. Mistakes are not failures. They are lessons that make you stronger and more capable. A messy garden is still food on your table. A fence patched together still protects your animals. Every imperfect effort teaches you something valuable for the next time. And finally, maybe most importantly, focus on your own path. Social media is full of picture-perfect homesteads, spotless kitchens, and animals that always seem to behave. But what you're not seeing is everything else. You're only seeing the highlight reel, not the full story. Comparison is the fastest way to rob yourself of joy. Your journey will not look exactly like mine or anyone else's, and that's a good thing. Your homestead is meant to reflect your family, your land, your goals, and your values. When you stop comparing and start focusing on your own path, you'll find so much more satisfaction in the progress. Celebrate your wins. Take a breath and remind yourself that where you are right now is a perfect place to start. Commit to progress, not perfection, and let go of comparison, because your homestead journey is yours and yours alone, and that's what makes it so great. In this section, we are going to be bringing real life and homestead life together, because I bet you are already doing homesteady things without even realizing it. Homesteading isn't always about moving to acres of property, buying a herd of cattle, and canning a year's worth of food. It's about the small intentional choices that you make every single day. Let's talk about another mindset shift. You are already a homesteader. Think about it. Have you ever made something from scratch, repurposed leftovers, or found a creative way to make do with what you had? Maybe you tried regrowing celery from a stalk, fix something around your house instead of buying new, or built something out of scrap wood. Those are all homesteading wins. And homesteading isn't about acreage, it's about a way of thinking. If you're learning, growing, thinking, or raising, even in small ways, you're doing it. That mindset matters more than how much land you own or how many animals you raise. And here's the key. No one level defines success. Your journey might look like herbs on a windowsill. Someone else's might look like a dairy cow in the pasture, but both are equally valid. If you're choosing to grow and learn, then you're homesteading right now. Okay, let's pause here, and I want you guys to open up your workbook and turn to page 9. I'm already a homesteader. This is such an important exercise because so often we focus on the things that we're not doing yet. We think, I don't have chickens. I don't have a garden. I'm not even canning, so I must not be a homesteader. But the truth is, if you're doing even one of these things, baking from scratch, cooking meals at home, using a clothesline, composting your food, or reusing jars, you're already living this lifestyle. Every box you can check is proof that you're moving forward. And even if it feels small, it's not, because these small, ordinary habits are the foundation of homesteading. They're what build the confidence and momentum, so when you're ready for the next step, the bigger steps like starting a garden, raising animals, or learning to can, you'll already have the skills and the mindset in place. So as you look through this, don't just skim it. Take time to notice. Which ones are you already doing? Which ones are second nature? Which ones do you want to add in next? This isn't about guilt, it's about gratitude for the progress you've already made and the excitement for where you're heading. And remember, your homestead shouldn't look like anyone else's, but checking even a few of these boxes means you're living the heart of homesteading already. You're being resourceful, creative, and building a connection with what you have right now. Let's look at the next page in your workbook. It's on page 10, From Daily Life to Homestead Life. This page is designed to help you realize that homesteading isn't something far away or out of reach. It's already part of your everyday life. Think about the routines you do without even noticing. Cooking for your family, managing the grocery budget, doing laundry, or caring for your kids and pets. All of those things are already laying the foundation for homesteading skills. For example, cooking meals at home, that's scratch cooking, and it connects directly to food preservation and seasonal meal planning. Budgeting, that's a skill you'll use when you're planning out your garden expenses and comparing feed costs. Doing laundry, that ties into resourcefulness and sustainability. You may line dry clothes, make your own soap, or learn to stretch what you already have. Caring for kids, parents, or pets, that's responsibility. Structure and routine are the very same mindset you'll need when you bring animals onto your homestead. See how those everyday routines are already laying your foundations? You're not starting from scratch. You're just building on skills that you already have. Now, here's the important part. Once you recognize the overlap between your daily life and homesteading life, it becomes easier to imagine what the next steps could be. You don't need to leap straight into raising cows or growing a year's worth of food all at once. Instead, you can ask, what's one small step I can take that builds on what I'm already doing? If you're cooking meals at home, maybe the next step is learning to make bread from scratch or preserving extra produce so it lasts longer. If you're caring for pets, maybe the next step is raising a few backyard chickens. If you're budgeting, maybe the next step is building a simple system to tackle your homestead costs. This is how homesteading grows. It's not one huge decision, one huge leap. It's a series of small, repeated choices that add up over time. And the more you practice, the more confident you'll feel to take on the bigger dreams that you have. So, as you work through this page, pause and really think. Which everyday habits do you already have that make you a homesteader today? And how can you stretch one of those habits into a new step tomorrow? That's exactly what's going to set us up for the next part, talking about those bigger dreams, like raising animals, growing more of your own food, or creating a sustainable system for your family. But we're not jumping in all at once. We're building on what we already are working on, what's already right here and right now. So the next steps will be easier. Now, let's talk about those big dreams, like raising animals, growing a year's worth of food, or just living more sustainably. Big dreams are exciting, but they can feel overwhelming if you try to tackle it all at once. And the key is breaking them down into tiny steps. For example, let's say your big dream is raising chickens for fresh eggs. Your very first step might simply be researching your local chicken laws because, believe it or not, sometimes towns have quirky little regulations that you'd never expect. Your next step could be writing down 3 coop ideas that you like. Then you can decide where the coop would go, choosing your chicken breeds, budgeting for feed, and so on. So step by step, it becomes manageable. On page 11 and 12, I want you to write down one big dream idea. Then brainstorm your very first tiny step. And remember, you don't have to do everything at once. Every step counts, and bigger doesn't always mean better. Remember in the beginning in section 1, I told you that I kept all of my homesteading stuff in a binder to stay organized? I used that binder to organize all my big dreams. I had sections for pigs, even though I didn't know anything about them at the time. So I researched different breeds, how to care for them, how to butcher, even deworming schedules and health risks. I wanted to be prepared long term before I even brought them home. That's what this page is about. Dreaming big, but mapping it out in small, doable steps. You can research as much as you want, just make sure you're researching in a way that fits your next project or animal without overwhelming yourself. I want you to remember this. You're already on the path. Homesteading isn't some far-off dream. It's happening right now in the small things you're already doing every single day. Whether it's cooking a meal from scratch, growing a single plant, or caring for a few animals, those daily choices matter. Homesteading is about weaving those habits into your everyday life. It doesn't have to be complicated. You don't need to quit your job. You don't have to move to the country or have it all figured out before you start. When you look at your big dreams, don't let them overwhelm you. Break them down into tiny, doable steps and celebrate each one along the way. Every time you hang laundry on the line, reuse a jar, or choose to cook from scratch, you're proving to yourself that you can live more sustainably. And here's the best part. Each of those steps builds momentum. 1 step turns into 2 steps turn into habits. Before you know it, you'll look back and realize you've been building the life you wanted all along, 1 step at a time. So as we wrap up this section, take a moment to give yourself some credit. You are already doing it. You are already creating a homestead lifestyle that's uniquely yours. And the truth is, you don't need to do it all at once. You just need to keep moving forward, one small step at a time. I want to talk about something that every homesteader faces, no matter their experience: mistakes and overwhelm. Mistakes are not the end. They're just part of the process. Every burned loaf of bread, every plant that didn't make it, every project that went sideways or even upside down, is all teaching you something. By the end of this lesson, you're going to learn how to take mistakes and turn them into momentum, how to give yourself permission to not do it all, and how to break free from the overwhelm so you can just keep moving forward. First, let's normalize mistakes. Nobody starts their homesteading journey just knowing it all. We learn through trial and error, and that's not just okay. That's how it's supposed to work. Now, I get it. In the moment, it's very frustrating. You burn a batch of bread, you lose a few seedlings, maybe even an animal, and your brain's shouting at you in your head that you are not cut out for this. But even seasoned homesteaders with decades of experience make mistakes. You can do everything right, and sometimes it just still doesn't work out. That doesn't make you a failure. It makes you human, and it makes you a learner. Think of it this way. You're starting something new and you're pushing yourself outside your comfort zone. That automatically means you're going to be making more mistakes than your average Joe. That person that's sitting on the couch binge watching Netflix. But those mistakes, they're signs that you're in the arena, that you're putting in the work, and every mistake is a chance to grow. Turn in your workbook to page 13. Turn mistakes into momentum. And at the top, you're going to see 4 simple categories: what went wrong, how it felt, what I learned, what I'll try next. And let's walk through it together. We'll use one of my mistakes as an example, and you'll see that I've already entered it in on the top row. I burned bread. Probably not the first or the last time, but as you can see how I felt, I was frustrated. I felt rushed. I was overwhelmed. What I learned was that I was doing too many things at once and I forgot about it. That happens a lot too. What I'll try next time, I'll set a timer. So that way if I'm multitasking, the ding will remind me. You see how this works? You've taken something that could have made you feel defeated and turned it into a stepping stone. And it doesn't just have to be food. Maybe your animals knocked down a water bucket for the 5th time. Maybe your budget didn't stretch as far as you thought. Whatever it is, you can put it through the same framework. This matters because mistakes shouldn't feel like dead ends. Think of them as in-betweens. They're the things standing between you and the skill you're trying to build. And when I say standing between, I'm not saying blocking. Stepping stones, remember? So the more you practice this reflection, the faster you'll grow. So right now, go ahead and pause the video and take time to write down at least one mistake. Just try it. It doesn't have to be super recent, and it doesn't have to be homesteading related. It could just be at home, in work, or with your family. Then walk through the 4 columns. You'll be surprised at how powerful it feels to put it on paper and reframe it. The point is simple. Mistakes help us grow, and there is no reason to be ashamed of them. Every mistake is proof that you're trying, and trying is how we build momentum. If you're anything like me, sometimes you put way too much on your plate. Some days you feel like Superwoman and you can conquer the world, and then other days you're just plain running on fumes. I know for me personally, there are days where I do get a lot done, and I put that down to the systems I've set in place. But here's the thing. I don't always leave space for setbacks. And let's be real, there will always be setbacks. A sick kid, the goat's deciding to escape for the 5th time this week, or maybe I'm just plain tired. Then what happens? I can't get it done. And then the guilt follows. I feel guilty because I didn't make the chocolate chip cookies like I told the kids I would, or guilty because I didn't stop to visit a friend like I'd hoped. And maybe you felt the same way too. Like you're letting people down when life gets messy. But the truth is, life gets messy. That doesn't mean you failed. And that's why I love this next page in your workbook. It's on page 14. It's okay. It's okay if dinner comes out of the freezer some days. It's okay if the weeds are winning in the garden this week. It's okay if the animals got fed but the house didn't get mopped. This is your permission slip. So often, we homesteaders measure ourselves against someone else's picture-perfect Instagram homestead and then feel like we're falling short. But here's your reminder. You're not falling short. You're living real life. So pause here if you want to write down some of your own. What are the areas where you've been beating yourself up? Where could you give yourself permission and grace? Because the more you practice saying it's okay, the easier it gets to let go of the guilt and focus on what truly matters. At the end of the day, it's not about doing it all. It's about doing the things that serve your family, your goals, and just letting the rest go. Being overwhelmed is such a common feeling, especially for homesteaders. It can creep up on you gradually or hit you all at once, and it shows up in different ways. Sometimes it's having too many big dreams going at once, sometimes it's the little tasks that just keep piling up, and sometimes it's just life throwing interruptions at you. And honestly, that's okay. It happens to all of us. What matters is learning how to manage that overwhelm in a way that feels doable. One of the biggest game changers for me has been learning to limit my goals. So instead of trying to do everything in one season, I pick 1 or 2 focus points. For example, maybe this spring is all about learning meal planning, and next season I'll focus on gardening basics. Breaking it up helps me keep my sanity, and it helps me keep moving forward without burning out. Another tool that's been huge is what I call my good enough systems. These are shortcuts that keep my life moving without making me feel guilty, and that means by simply having an automatic watering schedule instead of fussing over my garden several times a day, or batch prepping meals in bulk instead of cooking from scratch every single night. These systems don't have to be perfect, they just have to be good enough to support your life and your goals. And don't forget, you don't have to do this alone. Getting help is not a weakness. Involving your kids, your spouse, or even your family and friends makes the load lighter, and it actually teaches you important skills along the way. Now, one habit that really changed things for me is making lists. And I know some of you might be list makers too, but I use my list as a brain dump, not a to-do list. That has to be done by the end of the day. When I'm out watering the garden or walking through the barn and I notice something like a fence that needs repaired or a garden bed that needs weeding, I don't just drop everything and do it right then. I write it down. Then later, I look at my list and I decide how I need to prioritize them. This has been a game changer because it gets me out of that mindset of everything needs to be done right now. And that's a mindset a lot of us struggle with. And the truth is, not everything is urgent. So when I look at my list, I ask myself a few key questions. Is this a safety or health issue that I do have to drop everything and handle right now? Will this cause damage if I wait? Could I delegate it? Maybe have someone else take care of it for me. Can it simply wait 24 hours? That's it. It's pretty simple. And those questions help me sort out what's truly important versus what feels urgent. And let me tell you, this system alone has lifted so much stress off my shoulders. I put this in your workbook. It's on page 15 if you want to try it out for yourself. When you start doing this, you'll notice how much freedom it gives you. It helps you keep moving forward without feeling like you're drowning under this weight of never-ending to-do lists. It's about doing what matters in the right order and giving yourself permission just to let the rest wait. This is something I really want to sink in because you do not have to do it all today. Homesteading is a lifestyle. It's not a race. There will always be more chores, more projects, and more ideas than hours in a day, and that's okay. The important thing is choosing what matters most right now and knowing that the rest can wait. When we push ourselves to do everything at once, the stress shows up, and it doesn't just make us feel overwhelmed, it affects us mentally and physically. Mentally, stress makes it harder to focus, harder to enjoy the work, and easier to slip into negative self-talk. Physically, it can show up as fatigue, tension, headache, even getting sick more often. Stress steals our energy. And on a homestead, energy is one of the most valuable resources. That's why giving yourself grace isn't a luxury. It's actually part of keeping yourself strong and steady. Think of it like a garden. You don't plant seeds and then stand over them yelling to grow faster. They need time, water, and rest in between. You're the same way. Rest is not wasted time. It's what allows you to show up refreshed and ready for the next season of work. Even 10 minutes to breathe, stretch, or enjoy a cup of coffee outside can shift your whole day. There's no single right way to homestead. Your pace, whether it's slow and steady or fits into a busy schedule, is the right pace. Maybe you're working full-time, raising kids, or doing chores before or after dark. For me, sometimes that's both, and it all counts. Grace looks like allowing yourself to move at the speed that fits your life, not the speed you think someone else expects. Homesteading isn't perfect, and it shouldn't be. It's a lifestyle, a journey. We put so much pressure on ourselves to have the perfect system, the perfect schedule, or the perfect setup, but the truth is, good enough systems are the ones that actually keep you moving forward. Good enough looks like a fence that works, even if it's patched together. It's a meal on the table, even if it's not made from scratch. It's your weedy garden producing food for you and your family, even though it doesn't look Pinterest perfect. These systems don't have to win awards, they just need to work for you, your lifestyle, and your family. Overwhelm happens when we try to look at everything all at once. The chores, the project, the animals, the garden, the never-ending to-do list, it can press in on us like it's too much to handle. And when that feeling hits, a lot of us freeze. We do nothing, not because we don't care, but because we don't even know where to start. The best way to fight overwhelm isn't by pushing harder, it's by simplifying. It's about breaking things down into small, doable steps and giving yourself permission to focus on just one thing at a time. That's how you build momentum, and that's how you keep moving forward. And that's how you reclaim a sense of peace in the middle of all this chaos. And while we're talking about chaos, let's talk about mistakes again. Mistakes are not proof that you're failing. They're proof that you're trying. Every seasoned homesteader I know has a whole library of failure stories. We've all planted crops that never sprouted. We've all lost animals we thought were secure or followed recipes that flopped. Or maybe we poured our time and energy into a project that did not work out. These moments sting in the moment, but they aren't wasted. Mistakes are teachers. They show us what doesn't work so we can figure out what does. They shape us into better problem solvers, they toughen us up, and they make the victories, the plants that thrive, the animals that grow strong, the projects that finally succeed, they feel even sweeter. So as we close out this section, I want you to remember, overwhelm is normal. Mistakes are normal. Neither of them mean you're not cut out for homesteading. In fact, they're signs that you're building something real. And if you can learn to take these things one step at a time, to breathe through the overwhelm, and to treat the mistakes like stepping stones instead of a setback, you'll keep moving forward steadily, resiliently, and with a lot more grace for yourself. In this final section, we're going to talk about something that can truly transform your homestead: habits. One-time actions are great, but what really builds a sustainable, joyful homestead are the daily habits that add up over time. Habits turn overwhelm into consistency, and they make sure that the homestead dream isn't just a burst of energy. It's a lifestyle that you can keep going for the long run. Here's why habits matter so much. They create consistency. And consistency is what truly shapes your lifestyle. More than the big projects, more than the good intentions, and more than that one amazing weekend where you felt unstoppable and got everything done. Habits are what carry you through the ordinary and messy days. Think about it. Big projects come and go. You might plan a new fence, a barn upgrade, or even a beautiful new garden bed. But life happens. Kids get sick, work gets busy, and weather doesn't always cooperate. Big projects can get pushed aside or delayed. Habits, on the other hand, keep your homestead moving forward even on the toughest days. Feeding your chickens, watering your plants, or even tidying up for just 15 minutes. Those little things might not feel huge in the moment, but when stacked together day after day, they build a foundation that's unshakable. And that's the real power of habits: steady, lasting results. Now here's the good news. You don't have to overhaul your entire life overnight, and please don't. That is the fastest way to burn yourself out. Instead, start small, pick one habit that feels doable. Maybe that's just walking your garden each morning with a cup of coffee in hand, checking on your compost every evening, or feeding your sourdough starter before you go to bed. The point isn't perfection, the point is progress. One small habit done consistently will carry you further than a big burst of energy that fades away. Habits are powerful because they don't just shape what you do, they shape who you become. They're those quiet, steady actions that don't always feel like much in the moment, but over time, they create real transformation. That's why I keep coming back to this idea of starting small. Starting small doesn't mean you're dreaming too small. It means you're laying the foundation that's strong enough to last.
When you start with just one habit, it feels doable. It's not overwhelming, and because it's manageable, you're much more likely to actually follow through. Maybe that habit is simply walking your property every morning or checking the water levels for your animals before you go to work. Maybe it's setting aside just 5 minutes every night to plan the next day. These might seem tiny, but these little habits build trust with yourself. Every time you follow through, you're proving to yourself that you can do this. Once you got that first habit steady, then you can begin layering in more. That's where the magic happens, because those small wins start to stack up. And before you know it, you've built a rhythm that makes your homestead run smoothly, almost without you even having to think about it. On page 16 in your workbook, you're going to find the worksheet to help you start implementing just one small habit. Just one habit that, if you practiced it every day, would make your life easier over time. Keep it simple and give yourself permission not to overcomplicate it. It could be something as small as feeding your sourdough starter in the morning or at night, or spending 15 minutes every day educating yourself, reading, watching something. Remember, success doesn't come from doing everything all at once. It comes from starting small and showing up consistently. That's the real heart of building a lifestyle that lasts. One of the most powerful ways to build new habits is through something called habit stacking. James Clear talks about this in his book Atomic Habits, and it's one of the simplest, most effective tools that you can use to make homesteading habits stick. Here's how it works. Your brain already has strong connections around the things you do every day without even thinking about it, right? You start your morning with a cup of coffee, you feed the animals, you brush your teeth. These things are already wired into your routine. Habit stacking takes advantage of that by linking a new habit onto something that you already do consistently. For example, let's say you want to start checking your compost bin daily. Instead of relying on memory or sheer willpower to do it, you stack it onto something that you'll never forget. You might say, after I feed the animals, I'll walk over and check the compost. Or maybe it's every time I go out to lock the chicken coop at night, I'll do a quick walk around my property, the fence lines, and check for maintenance issues, right? The reason this works so well is because your brain loves patterns. When you connect something new to something automatic, your success rate skyrockets. Instead of battling with willpower, which fades quickly, you're building a rhythm that becomes automatic too. So the key takeaway here is don't try to reinvent habits from scratch. Attach them onto something that you're already doing and let your brain carry the load for you. Before long, those new habits will become second nature and your homestead will feel like it runs smoother and almost like it's on autopilot. I've created a worksheet called the Habit Stacking Plan to help guide you through this. On one side, you'll see a list of everyday habits you probably already do. Things like making coffee or tea, feeding your animals, unloading the dishwasher, or even checking your phone in the morning. These are things you rarely forget because they're so automatic. On the other side, you'll brainstorm homesteading habits that you want to build, and then you'll match them up. For example, maybe you decide that after you pour your morning cup of coffee, you're going to go water the seedlings. Or after you unload the dishwasher, you're going to feed your sourdough. By linking a new action to something you already do, you're creating an anchor that helps the new habit stick. Now, the goal here isn't to load yourself down with a dozen new habits at once. We've already talked about that. That's the fastest way to burnout. The real goal is to build one or two small anchors that bring consistency to your day. And this is about progress, not perfection. And even more importantly, it's about building a rhythm, because rhythm carries you forward, because it becomes second nature. The beauty of habit stacking is that it keeps you accountable almost effortlessly. You don't have to rely on willpower or sticky notes all over your house. Your existing habits, the ones you already do without thinking, become the reminders. That's powerful because when life gets messy, rhythm is what carries your homestead forward. So here's what I'd like you to do. Take a few minutes to fill this worksheet in. Pair the examples together and come up with some of your own. Remember, it's not about doing everything perfectly. It's about stacking small, steady actions until they create a lifestyle rhythm that lasts. You're not just adding more chores. You're building a framework that keeps your homestead moving, no matter what life throws at you. I want to leave you with one final reminder. Habits don't have to be big to make a difference. In fact, the small habits, the ones that feel like they're almost too simple, are often the ones that create the biggest change over time. They build consistency, and consistency is where your confidence grows. When you know that you can show up for just a small action every day, it proves to yourself that you are capable. That consistency is what carries you through the hard days, the days when motivation is low or the list feels overwhelming. Small actions really do lead to big results. Feeding your animals, watering your plants, tidying up for just a few minutes, or writing down your wins. These may not feel like big game changers in the moment, but done consistently, they become the foundation of a sustainable homestead. These daily rhythms are what turn your goals into a lifestyle. And remember, it's always progress over perfection. You're not aiming to get every single thing done right every single day. You're aiming to keep moving forward, even if it's just one small step. Mistakes will happen, projects will stall, and life will interrupt. But your habits, they'll keep you grounded and growing, no matter what. Habits also give you the patience and grace. They remind you that growth takes time, just like a seed in a garden. You don't see the results overnight, but you trust the process. Each repeated action is like watering those seeds, and eventually you'll see the fruit of your consistency. So as you finish this course, don't pressure yourself to change everything all at once. Choose one habit, commit to it, and let it build rhythm. Add more over time and celebrate your progress along the way, because at the end of the day, it's not the big one-time efforts that shape your homestead. It's the quiet, steady habits that you practice day in and day out, season after season. That's where your patience grows, that's where grace is found, and that's where your confidence is built. And that's how you keep moving forward, even on the hardest days. Homesteads aren't built in a day. They're built in daily choices, one habit at a time. Through this course, we've walked through the heart of what it means to create a homesteading lifestyle that actually works for you. In section 1, we started by focusing on your why. Knowing your reason for this lifestyle is what fuels you when things get tough. In section 2, we talked about simplifying. Finding ways to make homesteading fit your life instead of burning yourself out trying to do everything at once. Section 3 reminded us to normalize imperfection. You don't need a Pinterest perfect homestead to be successful. You need grace, permission, and the mindset to say, it's okay if everything doesn't get done today. In section 4, we leaned into the truth that mistakes are part of the process. Every failure is feedback. Every misstep teaches you something and moves you forward. And finally, in this last section, we focused on building habits, because those small, consistent actions like feeding the animals, checking the garden, or even just tidying up for 15 minutes, they may not seem big in the moment, but they are the foundation of a thriving, sustainable homestead. When you tie all of this together, here's the big picture. You're already on your way. Every choice you make, big or small, is shaping the homestead life you've been dreaming of. So thank you. Thank you for finishing this course. Thank you for investing in yourself. And thank you for taking the steps forward towards your homesteading dreams. I'm so proud of you. These lessons will keep you growing, not just in skills, but in confidence too. And this isn't the end. I'll keep sharing tools, encouragement, and fresh ideas to support you as you guys keep building. Keep celebrating your wins. Keep showing up for those daily small habits. Keep dreaming big. You've got this, and I cannot wait to see how your homestead grows.